later. But I would say maybe there's something that has to do with Purim here, but there's not much that has to do with Purim here. A little bit. We'll try to be good Rabbanim and connect it no matter what, even to Purim somehow. בסדר, you guys with me? קדימה. זכריה, אתה איתי? You're there. You're good. It's the first Megillah usually. No, after Mishlei. Where are you going? You were in Esther. You were right there. Okay, I got it. All right. Go. There it is. The stream's working. Yalla. Ana halach dodecha yafa banashim. Ana pana dodech unvakshenu imach. Where has your beloved go, my most beautiful of women? Where has your beloved gone, and we'll search for you? Right? Which a little bit reminds us of Pasuk Tet in the previous chapter, where it said, Ma dodech midod afam anashin, Ma dodech midod shekacha ishbatan. Right? What's so amazing about your dod? Right? And then she went into the whole explanation why her dod is so unique and so special and so amazing that we sort of we did not go into the depth of, neither in Rashi nor in the Malbim. We talked about last time, if you remember, we talked about how the Malbims do us into the Sfirot and into a philosophical mode of what the definitions of Hashem. And since we want to move ahead, I'm not going into it, even though it's interesting stuff. Beseda. Okay, so this sounds a little bit like this again. Where dear Dod? Where is he? And we'll look with you. And she says, Dodi arad legano, la'arugot habosem, lir'ot baganim ve'lilkot shoshanim. He came down to his garden, to the arugot is like the rows of things that are planted. Arugot habosem, where the perfume or the spices have been planted. Lir'ot baganim ve'lilkot shoshanim. To shepherd in the or to walk around in the gardens and to pick the roses. Ani ledodi vedodi li haro'eh bashoshanim. I am for my beloved is for me. He who takes his sheep among the roses. Right? Ani ledodi vedodi li. What do we know that from? Roshei Tevot Elul. That's a famous acronym. The first letters of Ani ledodi vedodi li, Roshei Tevot Elul, and that's one of the more famous acronyms in Judaism. That's what happens in Elul. We start coming back to Hashem. Ani ledodi vedodi li. That's sort of what we're trying to build in Elul. Okay. Now we have another description that really reminds us of things that happened in Perek Dalet. Let's take a look. Yafat rayati ketirtza navak Yerushalayim ayuma kenigdalot. You're beautiful, my beloved, like Tirtza. Tirtza is a city in the Shomron. Navak Yerushalayim. You're beautiful like Yerushalayim. Ayuma kenigdalot, which is a harder term. Well, you have to use Rashi for this. Hesebi enaich minegdi shehem hirivuni. Move your eyes away from me, because they are causing me something. Here, hivuni, rahav, right? Maybe to be too excited, to be too full of myself. Here, hivuni. Se'arech ke'eder ha'izim shegalshu min ha'gilad. Your hair is like a herd of goats. Flock of goats, you say, right? A flock of goats who are sliding down the mountain. Shegalshu min ha'gilad. Beautiful, right? I don't know. I would not try this on anyone nowadays. I'm not sure how it would go, okay? I don't know, but I'm not sure. So if anyone tries it, let me know how it worked. Shinaich keder achelim. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep. She'alu min harachza, who came out of the wash, and is very white. Shekulam matimot v'shakula in bahem. They all fit and they're all perfect and there's nothing missing. Kefelach harimon rakatech. Your forehead or this area is like a piece of pomegranate. Mibad letzamatech, under your hair. Shishim hema melachot ushmonim pilagshim. There are 60 melachot, malkot really. 60 queens and 80 pilagshim, concubines. Valamot and mispar, and hundreds and uncountable girls. There are a lot of important people, but achati yonati tamati, my beloved, yonati tamati, my dove, my perfect one, she's only one. Achati li'ima, she is one to her mother. Barahili oladeta, she's the clearest to the one who or the shining one, to the one who gave her birth. Ra'u avanot ve'yashua, girls saw her and praised her. Melachot upilagshim ve'aleluha, queens and concubines, and they all sung her praises. Mizot anishkafa kamo shachar, who is this one who appears like the dawn? Yafa kalvana, she is beautiful like the moon. Barak achama, clear and shining like the sun. Ayuma kanidgalot, that same one that we saw before. Ayuma kanidgalot, whatever that means. But he said it twice. El ginat egoz yaradeti, I have gone down to the garden of egoz, nuts, the nut garden. Lirot bi'ibe anachal, to see the growth in the riverbed. Lirot afarcha gefen and etzor rimoni. I want to see if it's time for the grape to have started to flower, and if the rimonim started to bud, the pomegranates. Lo yadati, nafshi samatni, markavot ami nadiv. I didn't know. My soul put upon me the chariots of my benevolent people, whatever that means. So I have to take a look at that last pasuk. Okay, not that the other pasukim made sense. So not that it's like we understood everything else, and not this one. But there are pasukim here that internally make sense. Right. We don't know what they're hinting to, but this pasuk isn't clear even in its pshat level. Okay, Beseder. So let's dive in here. We're going to do Rashi. Start with Rashi. The Malbim, I'm going to say before we go to Rashi, just so we'll know where we're heading for the Malbim. If you guys remember, in chapter 5, the last chapter, he said this was the end. Right? He said this is the end of Shlomo's Nevuah. The next time is going to be death. And this chapter for Shlomo is going to be talking about death, which is very interesting because there aren't that many. This chapter is about. The chapter we just read is all about death. Yes, it's the moment of death. Okay, this is what it's going to be. When Hashem comes to collect the soul, which is fascinating. And there's a book in the Tanakh that talks about this moment of when the soul separates from the body. Okay, that's really what this chapter and next chapter are going to be talking about, according to the Malbim. But that was a teaser because now we're in Rashi, okay? So Rashi is going to take this whole chapter and pretty much talk about Beit Sheni. If up until now we were talking about a lot about the desert, the first couple of chapters were about the desert and Hashem's connection with us and Har Sinai and the Mishkan, a lot of the Mishkan. Then he sort of crept ahead into the time of the kings, and that was the last chapter, right? And the separation. So here he's coming back, right? If you remember, last chapter was she was looking for him. He ran away. He knocked on the door. We didn't open up. He went away. We started looking for him. We couldn't find him. And pretty much most of what was happening there was a bad situation. Rashi presented it in mostly towards from Shlomo HaMelech on to the breakup of the kingdom. That's pretty much how he read last parsha, last parak, last chapter. This chapter, we're coming back already, okay? So let's take a look. Says Rashi in Pasuk Aleph, Ana alach dodech. So who's asking this question? Where is your beloved? Ma'anim umekanterim ha'umot et Yisrael. It's so powerful, this question. They ask, mekanterim means they're teasing them. They tease, they're making fun of Israel. They say, where's your God? Where'd he go? Ana alach dodech. Lama hiniach otach azuva almana. Why did he leave you barren and a widow? Sound familiar in any other religions who say these things? Yechezkel and others bring this question, right? This question is maybe Hashem left us. Okay, but here they're putting it in the nation's mouth. They say, where's your God?
The Christians say
Lemashal. Right? The fact that we stay azuvim, that we stay bereft, is a basic, was at least until Israel started again, but it was a basic tenet of Christianity, that Israel is supposed to be bereft. It's supposed to stay alive as an eternal witness to what happens when you don't accept the right God, or for whatever, or for the sins you did and you were replaced by God.
But it can't work out with Tanakh. It can't.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work with a lot of things.
Oh, with a lot of things. But if they read the Tanakh, if they call it like, oh yeah, I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to rectify because it says Israel will be redeemed.
I'm not trying to defend Christianity here in any way, shape, or they're smart. They have read this, so they managed to maneuver it into what they want. But I'm saying historically, when Medinat Yisrael came back, they had a very, very big theological problem with that happened. It may have been one of the biggest. I don't really know. This is what I was told by people who know, but they're Jewish. So I don't know if a Christian would agree with the way I explain what I'm saying. But this position of the goy, the position of the goyim saying to us, "Where is your God?" That happens, and it happens by Cheni. That's really happened there. This is, in other words, the galut of Beit Rishon, in between Beit Rishon and Beit Sheni. That's where they asked. They said, "Look, you've been taken out of your land. Gamarnu, we're done. Where's your God? You guys are still believing in God. Why?" Ana pana dodech, kshechazar vehishra rucho al koresh, venatan reshut livnot habayit. Okay, so this pasuk breaks into two things. He says, when he says ana halach dodech, where did he go? That was the first question. The second question, when he says ana pana dodech unevakshenu imach, Rashi emphasizes the second part, unevakshenu imach. Here, there's already a positive motion. Let us search with you. Let us be with you in searching for him. So Rashi refers to a specific event that happens in Ezra, which is a very interesting event. So let's read it. So when Hashem sent his spirit to Koresh, v'natan reshut livnot habayit, and he allowed the Beit HaMikdash to be built, v'itchilu livnot, and they really started building. Ba'u ve'amru lahem, ana pada dodech, im chozeru elecha, is a more positive statement. If he's really coming back, nevakshenu imach, let us also search for him. Let us also be part of this seeking him. K'inyan shenemar v'yishmeu tzarei Yehuda u'Binyamin ki bnei hagola bonim Mechael v'yigshu et Zerubbabel v'gomer v'nivnei imachem ki kachem nidrosh le'Elohechem. Before I go on to the end of Rashi here, Rashi refers to a very interesting event that happens. When they start building Beit HaMikdash in Beit Sheni, the Goyim who lived here in Israel, who were some kind of hybrid people who were brought in by Sancheriv and semi-Jewish custom people, they had some customs, they may have some amount of intermarriage with Jews who were here. They say, "Come, let us build with you," which is an interesting. It's an interesting move. And they say, "Hey, you're building a temple to God. We also believe in that God. Let us build also. Let us be involved. Let us participate. Let's be it's big shalom olami. Let's have shalom. All the nations will all build together." Second temple, yeah. And there they say no. Zerubbabel, who is the leader, the Jewish leader at that time when they're building it, he says, "No, lo lachem velanu livnot beit Elohim. No, it's just for us. You're not part of this." Okay, says Rashi here, "V'kavanatam lera'ah kedei lashbita min hamalacha vehem meshivim." Melacha. So really, says Rashi, and that's what Rashi said there too. I taught Ezra a really long time ago here, but one of the things we learned there is it's not clear what was their intentions. In other words, were they honest? and we said no because you just can't have not Jewish people being part of the building of the temple, or they were dishonest. So Rashi there and here holds that they were dishonest. They were just trying to trick Israel to get in and wreck things from the inside. It was all a plot. There was no sincerity in the statement. It was just a plot. Because immediately when we say no, they move to block building Beit HaMikdash. Through everything they can do it. Through diplomacy, they send letters to Paras to stop it. They terror. I don't know if it sounds familiar, but they're trying to stop the reestablishment of the Jewish return to Israel in any way they can. But the first motion was to say, can we help? Says Rashi, Zerubbabel understood their intentions and he says no. Okay? But that's their statement. In other words, so this pasuk, if you think about it, talks about two ways the nations were trying to hurt us or disencourage us. The first one was by saying, you're gone, Hashem doesn't want you anymore. And the second one was, once we start building Beit HaMikdash, was, we're going to help you, we're going to come help you and really destroy it from inside. So there are two ways that they were trying to say. So this whole pasuk, Ana halach dodech, Ana pana dodech unavakshenu imach, they're both the goyim who are working that we do not return to Hashem's good graces. That's the movement. They don't want us to be back in Hashem's good graces. That is something they are not interested in. It fits their worldview for us to not be in the good graces. When Israel is raised up, it shakes everyone's foundation of belief, because so many of the religions in the world feed off that they are the new Israel or the real Israel or whatever, and this movement of Israel coming back. Of course, this is before both Christianity and Islam. Okay, so I'm just obviously it's not historical what I'm saying now, but history apparently repeats itself. They had a real trouble with Am Yisrael returning to Eretz Yisrael. It bothered them. It was a proof that Israel is an anomaly, sort of like Haman says in the thing. What Haman says to Achashverosh, they're still a nation even though they're not in a land. Mostly, every nation, when you leave your land, you're finished. This idea that there's a people who are chosen by Hashem and their story continues after exile was not existent. It was it didn't exist. And they when they would make fun of us in Galut, where is your God? It was a real theological making fun of you. In other words, you do not have a God. Your God has left you, and you're here in Bavel and Paras. You're finished. Then when they come back, it's a shock to the system. And what do you do when someone shocks your system? There are two things. You could either open yourself up that maybe you were wrong, or you could try to break the system, break the thing, break reality, and make sure it doesn't happen. That's what they're trying to do here. Anyway, we answer, Vehem Meshivim. So now that the Goyim say, Ana alach bonech, and then we answer, Dodi yarad legano. My beloved came down to his gun. Says Rashi, Tziva lanu livnot echalo, ve'haya sham imanu, and he's with us. Okay? Gano in this case is Beit HaMikdash. Hashem came back to his Beit HaMikdash, and he commanded us to build it. Okay? Lirot baganim, ve'od yarad lirot tzono baganim asher nafotzu shtam. Now listen to this Rashi. Okay, this I put like two exclamation marks on this one. Ve'od, so he came to Gano, which is his gan, his garden, is Beit HaMikdash. But he also went to Lirot Baganim. Remember, there's Ganim in plural. Says Rashi, Ve'yod yarad lirot tzono baganim asher nafotzu sham. He also went to all the other gardens that we've been exiled to. Otam shelo alu min hagolah. The ones who did not make aliyah when they should have. Mashresh chinato alehem bebatei knisiyot u'batei midrashot. Okay, us Zionists here in Machon Meir, we have trouble with this statement. In other words, Rashi here is saying, there's the Gano and there are Ganim. So there's the Gano is Beit HaMikdash, and there are many Ganim. Also Hashem's there. You have to remember, this event where Korah said you could start rebuilding Beit HaMikdash was a huge event. We also know that at the best situation, there were 10% of the Jews who made Aliyah from Bavel, 20%, not a good number, not a large number, that came up and made Aliyah. That is disturbing. How do we relate to the people who remained back there? So you have big machlokot of how you relate to the people who remained in Galut. Right, I'm sitting talking to people who all have family in Galut, right? Including myself, okay? How do we relate to them? It's a major question. It's really a theological plonter. It's a problem, all right? Especially when you learn Ezra and Nehemiah, and you realize that as the Malbim part he starts it off. The Perush is Perush and Ezra and Nehemiah, and he says that Ezra and Nehemiah was an opportunity for Geula. That's what he says. It could have been the Geula, like we were so happy for the Geula and Mashiach and that. It was an opportunity, and we missed it. We muffed it because we didn't make Aliyah. When you read that Malbim, and then you realize, right now, we are exactly the same thing, and you say, 1 second, they muffed it, then
They didn't answer the door.
They didn't answer the knock. Right? I told you Rav Soloveitchik says, Mamash, here's the Chamesh Tfikot on this. And you missed it. That's what he says. That's what Rav Soloveitchik. The Malbim says it 200 years before Rav Soloveitchik, or 100 years before Rav Soloveitchik. Rav Soloveitchik said 1950s. He said, listen, he's knocking and we're not, and he says, we're not answering. He says, includes himself. We're not answering. It's frightening to understand that. Rashi has a much more pluralistic reading of this. Or not pluralistic, I'd say less Zionistic emotion. And Rashi says, Hashem is with us everywhere. We're answering the Goyim, right? The Goyim who said, where's your God? He said, well, he's coming back to Yerushalayim by a Cheni, but he's also with us in the Batei Midrashot. Where? In Bavel. That's what Rashi is hinting to, right? Otam shelo alu min hagola, the ones who did not make Aliyah, mashresh chinato aleim bebatei knisiot u'batei midrashot. Where is Hashem? In Shul. Where is Hashem? In the Beit Midrash. In Chutz La'aretz also. So this is a statement that people say to this day. I'm learning in Lakewood. I'm learning in, give me another one, Gateshead, right? In England. I'm learning in yeshiva, wherever it is. Big yeshiva, good yeshiva, learning Torah, Talmidei Chachamim, the right. And Hashem is here. Nachon, he's also in Yerushalayim. You're learning Machon Meir, he's also here learning. He's also, Hashem's here, is Gano and Ganim. Beseder. Maybe it's more Gano than Ganim, but there's still Ganim. He's still there. According to Rashi's reading, this is the statement. Hashem, we said, in other words, we're answering in both ways. We're saying, we're building here, and he's with us there. We're not saying, you be'emet, Hashem isn't with us in Galut, he's only with us in Beit HaMikdash. Hashem is with us no matter what. Don't think he left us, be'emet. He's always with us. Tov. V'lilkot shoshanim, right? Lirot baganim v'lilkot shoshanim, says Rashi. Shomea u'makshiv nidbarim betorato. Lilkot zchiyotehem u'lechotvam b'sefer zikaron lefanav. Lilkot shoshanim means Hashem dwells among his people and he pulls out the wonderful good actions they do. When they sit and they talk Torah between themselves, when they talk Avodas Hashem, Hashem is listening. Quotes the pasuk, right? That Hashem, Az nidibru yirei Hashem ish alechiv, ve'akshev Hashem ve'ishma, ve'aseh sefer zikaron. Whereas Hashem takes, I didn't quote it exactly right, but that's pretty. It says Hashem takes everything that every Jew learns and says, and he writes it down, like in the Megillah, sefer zikaron. Uma she'atem omrim levakesh imanu, livnot imanu. Now, that's one thing. He says, Hashem is with us. But what you people now want to help build, he goes back to what he said in the beginning, Ani ledodi, velo atem ledodi. He's medayek. Ani ledodi. No. You don't have any part in this. It's just us. Velo tivnu imanu. You will not build with us anymore. By the way, when I taught Ezra, it was very interesting. We opened up a couple halachic questions whether you can receive money to help build Yerushalayim from non-Jews. Because look at the pasuk. Lo lachem velanu. This last pasuk he quotes here. Livnot bet Elohenu. That's in Ezra, and then it says in Nehemiah, Vomer velachem en chelek utzdaka v'zikaron beYerushalayim. Question people ask: can we accept donations from Christians, from Muslims, from anyone to build Yerushalayim? It's a halachic question. It's not pashut. Can you accept a donation? So there says Nehemiah, well, stay away. Says Ezra or Zerubbabel, no, stay. Don't. We don't want your help. We don't want you to be part of it. Okay, but it seems that Rashi is saying Hashem is with us. He's with us here. He's with us. He's with us there. Don't worry about us. We're okay. Hashem's with us. Don't think that He disappeared, and just sort of stay out of our space. So okay. So let's go on. Says the pasuk. Yafa atrayat. Sorry, we're in pasuk. Okay, I'll jump over pasuk Gimel. Yafa atrayati ketirza nava Yerushalayim ayuma kenigdalot. Says Rashi, you're beautiful. Nava at ata kasher barishona Yerushalayim. Says Rashi, I love you now in Bayit Sheni, just like I loved you in Bayit Rishon. Why is that an interesting statement? Because what do we know about Bayit Sheni? Didn't have Shechina, didn't have an Aron, didn't have the fire coming down from Shamayim. But that's right. There were a lot of things in Bayit Sheni that did not exist, as opposed to Bayit Rishon. Bayit Rishon was Bayit Rishon. But Hashem says, you're beautiful to me, right? Nava ki Yerushalayim. You're beautiful now, like Yerushalayim was. Which is a fascinating statement of reading Jewish history. How to relate to Bayit Sheni. In other words, this is another question. Be'emet is a big question, how you relate to Bayit Sheni. Was Bayit Sheni, as some opinions see, it was mamash like Bayit Rishon. There was Bayit Rishon, Bayit Sheni. Or as other people say, there was Bayit Rishon, and since then pretty much we've been in destruction. Bayit Sheni was a blip. Bayit Sheni was an attempt to restore Beit HaMikdash. But what's Beit HaMikdash without Hashem's presence? What is that? It's very interesting what exactly was Bayit Sheni. Right? What exactly is a Bayit? What was supposed to happen in Beit Hashem? If you don't have an Aron, and you don't have the Shechina, then what in the world is Beit Hashem? What, is this a nice shul? What was it? They're korbanot, I said there, but it's a little unnerving to think about it. Because what was it supposed to be, and why did they build it? And we celebrate the building of it. We do. It's a sefer in the Tanakh. Ezra and Nehemiah is a sefer in the Tanakh. Even though when you read Sefer Ezra and you read it with Shlomo's building Beit HaMikdash, you realize. But in chapter 3 in Ezra, they talk about how people were crying when they built it. The people who remembered Bayit Rishon, when they're building Bayit Sheni, they're crying. Probably because they remember what it used to look like. And this is like a very... You guys know until Herod, when you think of Bayit Sheni, you think of Herod's Bayit Sheni. That's what you guys think of, or most people think of. Herod completely took it down and rebuilt it. Okay? Bayit Sheni until Herod's time was not the most impressive of buildings. Was that there? I'll put it lightly. All right, it was pretty much a building with a mizbeach. That's pretty much what it was, without that much gold and silver and then the beauty like Shlomo's was. It wasn't imposing. It wasn't impressive. Herod did an amazing architectural job. The problem having a mass murderer build Beit HaMikdash is another question. But Bayit Sheni, Be'emet, became very, it wasn't clear. It's not clear how to relate to it. And there's some people who say, Be'emet, since Bayit Rishon, Be'etzem, we're in Churban. Bayit Sheni wasn't really a Bayit for our purposes.
Can I ask, could it have contributed the lack of certain tools in building of Bayit Sheni that could have contributed to the fact that it didn't have like Hashem's presence.
What, like the Shamir, or what kind of thing? What kind of tools?
It can, yes, like the Shemir one. I know that's like.
I get it will be a technical statement, but the question would be: so why didn't Hashem? If Hashem brought Shlomo the Shamir worm, why didn't He bring Zerubbabel the Shamir worm?
That's a good question.
I'm saying, the fact is, Beit Sheni never really took off.
Yeah.
It never took off, and again, it didn't have Hashem's presence. It didn't have the Urim V'Tumim, right? It didn't have all the unique things that we feel that made Beit HaMikdash. It didn't have them.
So maybe I'm getting too technical with it, because like the hewn stones, I'm like trying to figure out.
So I don't think that was the issue, and Herod figures it out when he has to rebuild it. He manages to figure out how to do it. But no, but we're talking more spiritually. It just wasn't. It wasn't there. Okay, again, but there are some. I mean, sure, when Chazal talk about the Beit, they talk about Beit Sheni. That's what they saw. They were there. The Tanaim. Whatever it is, Rashi here seems to say Hashem's happy with Beit Sheni, just like He was with Beit Rishon. And Ayuma kenidgalot, Chayalei malachim imatcha atil alehem, shelo lilachem ulashbitchem min hamalacha. Hashem says, I sent out angels of fear to keep away all the people who are trying to stop you from building Beit HaMikdash. All right? Now, here's something unbelievable. Pasuk Hey is a funny pasuk. Hasebi enaich minegdi shehem yirivuni. The thing is, take your eyes off me, because they have caused me. How do you translate here, yirivuni? Anyone have English here?
I do, but it's art.
Go ahead. Oh no, right? Art school.
It says
yeah, the bottom it has it.
In the notes it says
Overwhelmed me.
Overwhelm me. Okay, which would make sense on the poetic, romantic thing, right? Overcome me. So keep your eyes. So move your eyes away from
Literally
me.
turn your eyes away from me, for they overwhelm me.
Overwhelm me. Here, Rivuni. Okay. So what does that mean? Move your eyes away from me, because it seems like it's a beautiful thing, right? I'm looking at your beautiful eyes, and I just don't look somewhere else, because it makes me crazy to see your beautiful eyes. Okay? So says Rashi, in Pasuk Hey, Kibachur, like a young man, Sharusato chaviva v'areva alav, that his betrothed, is that the word?
Okay.
Betrothed he loves her very much. Ve'enea naot, and her eyes are beautiful. Ve'omer la sebi enaich minegdi, stop looking at me. Ki biroti otach libi mishtachetz umitgae alai, veruchi gasa ki eni yachol litapek. That's the pshat. In other words, stop looking at me, because I am so attracted to you that when I see your eyes, I can't hold myself back, and I want to hold myself back. That's the pshat. Okay. Now he goes on. V'adugma. You guys see with the second in the bolding, the second paragraph there in the bold. V'adugma kachu. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Listen to this. B'migdash zeh I efshar la'ashiv lachem aron v'kaporet v'kruvim. I can't give you back the aron and the kaporet and the kruvim. I can't give it back to you. Why? Shehem yirivuni b'bayit rishon. La'arotchem chiba yetera ad shema'altem bi. They caused me the essence of the connection between Hashem and Am Yisrael. They made me, or helped me, show you guys such affection until you revolted against me. You have to read that again. What? Says Hashem, according to Rashi, it was too close in Bayit Rishon. It was too much. It made you revolt against me.
Overwhelmed.
It's such an interesting statement. It's frightening almost.
Wow.
That there is a critique of Bayit Rishon, that there was too much Kedusha in Bayit Rishon. Hashem was too close to Am Yisrael. Bayit Sheni has a yitaron, Chisaron. It has something better than Bayit than Beit Rishon had. We were just talking about how it was so worse than Beit Rishon. Rashi says, no, Beit Rishon was too much Kedusha, too much presence of God. It led you to revolt against me. So Beit Sheni was better. Listen to what he says. I couldn't give it back to you. Not that it didn't have. No, Hashem purposely makes sure you don't have an Aron, and you don't have Kruvim, and you don't have a Kaporet. It's shocking. This Rashi is like game-changing in understanding what happened in Beit Sheni. He's saying, I didn't want to give it to you because look what happened in Beit Rishon. So this is, of course, one of the hinting to one of the very famous midrashim that Chazal have of the difference between Beit Rishon and Beit Sheni, right? Beit Rishon of the Chet was Avodah Zarah, right? Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayot, Shlichut Damim, but Avodah Zarah was very present in Beit Rishon. And Beit Sheni, no Avodah Zarah. 70 years passed. No Avodah Zarah. So this is hinting there. Hashem says, when I was there, the Kedusha that emanates from Beit HaMikdash has people searching for Kedusha everywhere, believing everything is Kadosh. This is the language, this is the experience of things being really holy, spirituality infusing reality. What happened when spirituality infused reality? You guys went off to all kinds of things. You started believing in that and that and that. Why were you so intensely involved in this stuff? Because that was the reality in the world. Says Hashem, I'm not going to do this again in Beit Sheni. I'm going to not look you in the eye. I'm going to say, listen, sometimes it's better to look this way. Because when I look straight, right, when someone sits and stares at you in the eye, it's uncomfortable. It can be nice for a minute, or not a minute, for a second. But once someone keeps eye contact on you for more than 2 seconds.
So why was there a Beit Rishon in the first place? If Hashem
it was an attempt. It didn't work. Hashem says, I tried to bring this present, and it didn't work.
And he couldn't foresee it?
Hashem could foresee lots of things. The fact that I sin tomorrow, he foresees also. Could he stop me? Sure, he could stop me. But he doesn't. So that's a bigger question on foreseeing. Hashem foresees everything, but he gives us free will. So Hashem says, though, he says, the attempt, the way we tried to do it in Beit Rishon just didn't work. I see it didn't work. So we're going to shift to Beit Sheni and do different.
Did they get
It's amazing, huh?
too physical, like enmeshed with physical
Okay.
Because everything about the temple service was bring holiness into
100%.
And
It was very spiritual. It was tangible, and physicality. Physicality was a very major part of it.
Wow.
But that leads to Avodah Zarah. That's exactly what I would say religious fervor Avodah Zarah is. In other words, Hashem is everywhere. I'm going to serve this cup. This cup is God. I'm going to... And you felt it. It was there. We talk about it. We talk about it in our minds. Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is there. It was something that was...
It stops being emunah. It becomes something else.
So it depends how you define emunah. But it was there. Again, there's another great midrash that you must have heard in some of your shirim of how when Rabbi is teaching about the kings of Judea, and he says, tomorrow we're going to talk about my friend Menashe. And then Menashe appears to him. Menashe the king was the worst king of all the kings of Judea. He appears to him in a dream, and he said, you call me your friend, my friend Menashe? And he starts blasting him with Sheilot and Halacha. And he doesn't know how to answer. Abai can't answer these questions. And Abai says to Menashe, I don't understand. If you were such a Talmid Chacham, how can you have done such horrible things? And Menashe gives him the great answer. He says, if you were in my generation, you'd be grabbing onto my coattails and running after me to do Avodah Zarah.
Wow.
That's the statement of the shift. There was a shift in the world. In other words, Beit Rishon, Hashem says, and here Rashi is explaining the reasoning. This is an explanation. Rashi is giving a reasoning why. And he says sometimes too much Kedusha is not good. Or what we say, the orot were more than the kelim. The lights were more than the vessels. The vessels can't hold it. When the vessels can't hold the kelim, then it breaks. Beit Rishon was full of light. It was too much. They couldn't handle it. That's what Rashi is hinting to. Okay? So Beit Sheni worked differently. This is what we're talking about now, is Beit Sheni. So move your eyes away, because we have to work differently. Tov. So now, now he starts a list of compliments that he gives her. Your tzaddikim, your ktzinim, the giborim. I'm not going into the different things. Again, the words are just talking about her beauty, right? Your hair and your teeth and your whatever. Each one is, Rashi says, is metaphorically relating to another part of Am Yisrael who is that is a great person. And then he goes to Pasuk Chet, okay? Shishim hema melachot ushmonim pilagshim v'alamot en mispar. Okay, there are 60 queens and 80 maidservants and innumerable alamot, girls, okay, young girls, maidens. And my Yonati is one. So here Rashi, who really goes into the nitty gritty of this, and he says, 60 are the people who left Abraham's Yotzei Erecho. Okay? There are 60 descendants of Abraham. You see in Pasuk Chet here. Right? He starts counting them. Bnei Torah 16, Ishmael ubanav 13, Yitzchak ubanav 13, Bnei Yaakov 12, Bnei Esav 16. He gets to the number 60. Okay? So that's one group of people. They're the queens. They're the important people. Then there are 80 pilagshim, concubines. Those, says Rashi in the next page, those are the Bnei Noach. Okay? So he says, if you look in the first line up here, Ukeshem she'amelachot, she'em neshei hamelech, yetera, bigdula, they're greater than the pilagshim, than the concubines. Avram and his progeny are greater than the other people. But with all that, even though Avram had a lot of kids, only one of them is really the one who is, right? Only Israel. And he goes in Pasuk Tet, Achati Yonati, Umikulam Achati Anilcheret li, Le'yonat Tama, Shit Mimat Levim Ben Zuga. Only one of them remained loyal to their beloved. The Yonah is used as, Chazal saw the Yonah as mating for life, and that was a big issue for Chazal. Now there's this idea, Am Yisrael is likened to a dove for this, not because a dove is cool and looks nice and flies and sometimes is white. That's not why. We're like a dove because a dove mates for life, and that's the faithfulness that we had. Okay? Achati le'ima leknisiyata. הרבה מחלוקות בבתי מדרשות, כולם ליבם להבין תורה על מכונה ועל אמיתתה. Says, even though we hear machlokot all the time, this is a great insight into Jewish thought, right? A lot of times when people read Jewish thought, they say, why do the Jews argue all the time? Why are they always having these fights? And he says like this, and he says like this, and he says, they open the Gemara, that's all it is. He says this, he says this, they're fighting all the time. Says Rashi, even though there are a lot of them and they're fighting, achati leima, their heart is always for Hashem. It is actually a fascinating thing that when you argue with someone and you're both searching for the truth, it's a different motion than when you're arguing with someone over your ego, which often is what happens. Everywhere it happens. But it's something. When you're arguing with someone, you forget completely that we're both trying to discern the truth and find out what is the truth of whatever we're talking about. And now it becomes, I'm smarter than you and I'm going to prove that to you. Machon? Ever happened to you guys? It may have happened every so often, right? In other words, you get now when you learn, you could get angry at someone. You can get angry. You could say, hey, I don't agree and I don't agree. But it's a great Gemara that says that et vahev v'sufa, okay? Et vahev v'sufa, it's a quote from the Shira in Parshat Chukat, and it's not clear what it means, but Chazal doreshet et vahev b'sufa, et ohev b'sofa. At the end, they love each other. Talmidei Chachamim who fight, at the end they still love each other. They're screaming at each other in the Beit Midrash, but they love each other, and it ends with love. Says Rashi, this oneness that doesn't seem. What's so funny here?
I have a lot of McLaughlin in the room.
You have a what?
A lot of McLaughlin in the room.
Oh,
They
okay.
made until 2 in the morning.
Our neighbors bang on the door. They're like, "You got to be quiet. We're trying to sleep."
Oh, because you guys have arguments. Wonderful. But do you love each other?
Absolutely.
And you love what we're trying. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to the truth. Sometimes it gets hard to get to the truth. But, yafe. Tov. Barahi liyoladeta. All of Yaakov's children came out good. Is that there? Let's go on. Okay, Pasuk Yud. Mizot anishkafa kmo shachar. Yafa kalvana baraka chama ayuma kenigdot. Who is thee who appears like the, or who is mirrored or seen like the dawn? Says Rashi, Holech umeir. Ready? Me'at me'at. Slowly, slowly. Kach hayu Yisrael bebayit sheni. So were Israel in Bayit Sheni. Batchila Zerubbabel pchat Yehuda velo melech. והיו משועבדים לפרס וליוון. ואחר כך ניצחום בית חשמונאי ונעשו מלכים. Fascinating read here of Bayit Sheni. It started really bad. Zerubbabel was a pesha. He was like a ruler, a local ruler. But he wasn't a king. He didn't have power. But le'at le'at, just like the dawn breaks and then suddenly becomes light, so too Bayit Sheni moved ahead from a low intensity geula to a higher intensity geula, seeing the Beit Chashmonai, according to Rashi, as the epitome of what happens in Bayit Sheni. That was the best part, when we actually ruled. Now this concept of this slowly developing geula is one that most people who live nowadays and want to talk about geula use this model. Okay? Right? Kacha geulatam shel Yisrael kim'a kim'a. It starts slowly, like the dawn. It starts slowly and it moves ahead. So that's how he reads Bayit Sheni, which is very interesting because the Chashmonim are already out of the Tanakh. Okay, he has just shifted from everything we've read until now was the Tanakh. Rashi just shifted history out of Tanakh time. Okay, in other words, a Tanakhic book referencing a non-Tanakhic event, which is interesting. And the Ramban also talks about when he talks about the Aaron lighting the candles, and that Hashem promises Aaron that your children will light the candles. He's referencing to this. To the Chashmonei. But here we're already shifting into a larger swath of history that it's the Chashmonei. And that was the epitome of Bayit Sheni. Why? Because they were kings. Were they spiritually in a better situation than Zerubbabel? Lo batuach. Lo debatable, right? Debatable. It's like, but the fact that we had Malchut, says Rashi, that was a great thing. That's an interesting understanding. The very fact that we ruled, as opposed to, this is all political, this thing. Zerubbabel was a low-level official in the Persian Empire. But then we were kings.
Self-determination.
What? Self-determination, self-rule. Not self-determination, self-rule. Not determination. Self-rule. We were in charge. We were kings. Okay? That's Rashi sees that as a big thing. It's another thing when you think about what's happening here in Medinat Yisrael. The fact that we're ruling is a big thing. Okay, it's not a little thing that there's self-rule here. So, El Ginate goes Yaradati. The Shekhinah says, I came to Bayit Sheni, even though we said there wasn't really Shekhinah there. And then he likens them to an egoz, right? He says, El Ginat egoz Yaradati. I came down to a garden of nuts. And Rashi brings some beautiful midrashim, just not exactly, I'm not sure what to do with them, but they're beautiful. So let's read them. In here, right here, this sort of lower area, where a large bolded right before Pasuk Yud Bet, right before we're almost finished. Okay? So he says, Lama nimshelu Yisrael le'egoz. Why were Israel likened to a nut? Right? Is it nice? You're a nut. It's not such a nice thing to say. So why is egoz? What's so special about egoz? Ma egoz zeh. Ata ro'eh ota kulo etz. Ve'en nikar betocho. Potz'o umotz'o male megurot shel ochalin. A nut, it looks like it's inedible. It has a shell, and it's inedible. When you open it up, suddenly you see there are all kinds of seeds in there, or some kinds of edible parts. I'm thinking of a walnut, sort of, when you open it. Right? You open it up, it's like little parts in it. Okay? Or a pistachio, good. A pistachio works also. Peanuts doesn't work that way. Peanuts not a nut.
I mean,
No, but a shaked doesn't. A cashew does, an almond. No, but inside, when you open up a walnut, it's like it has like all kinds of folds and things in it. That's a megurot. He says here, like different kinds of shelves in it.
Seeds, sesame seeds.
No, that doesn't work either. No, but a pistachio does work. A pistachio does work that way also. All right. Anyway, okay. מצאו מלא מגורות של אוכלים. כך ישראל צנועים וענוותנים מעשיהם, ואין תלמידים שבהם ניכרים, ואין מתפארים להכריז על שבחם. Israel are humble and modest, and they don't go out saying, "Oh, look at me, look at me." Even the Talmidei Chachamim there, they don't shout out their abilities. בסדר? בדקתו אתה מוצא אותו מלא חוכמה. You check it out, you open it up, you look inside, and you go, oh my gosh, this is so full of chokhmah. So that's one reason we're like egozim. We're not big talkers. The other, and this is a beautiful one, he says Rashi says, there are a lot of midrashot about this, but here's a nice one too. Ma egozeh nofel batit, ve'en ma shebetocho nimas, af Yisrael golim leven umot velokin malkuyot arbe ve'en ma'asehem nimasim. This is an important one. Rashi says, when you have a nut, it falls in the dirt. I'll do it the other way. You have an orange that falls, a pure, you have a peach that falls in the dirt. Blah. That peach is pretty much gone. When you have a nut that falls in the dirt, Seder, what does it matter? The klipa is there. Seder, I'll take off the klipa, I'll eat what's inside. It doesn't hurt the nut. Says Rashi, Israel send out into the exile. Okay, and they get hurt and bashed. It doesn't mean their actions are unwanted. The fact that outside it looks like things are bad are happening, inside Hashem still loves their actions. That's how he reads this. And this fits into the story, of course, of Shir HaShirim, according to Rashi, which the grand story, I remind you, what we've learned the best, is Am Yisrael. This is Shlomo's writing to the people in Galut and saying, remember who you are. And this is a nice one. Okay. Now, the last pasuk, if we were too positive until now, the last pasuk knocks us down a peg, okay? We said it was a weird pasuk. Lo yadati, nafshi samatni markavot amin nadiv. I didn't know, my soul put the chariots of a nation. What in the world is going on here? Here Rashi gives us a unpleasant reading, and in a sense, he reads us the end of Bayit Sheni. If we went through Bayit Sheni in this chapter, now he's at the end of Bayit Sheni. What happened? Knesset Yisrael mitonenet. Am Yisrael complained. Lo yadati lizer minachet. I didn't know how to be careful from sin. She'emod bichvodi bigdulati. So that I will remain in my honor and my greatness. V'nechshalti b'sinat chinam u'machloket. I made the mistake of having baseless hatred and argumentivity, right? Machloket. Shegavar b'malchei beit choshmonai. Now this isn't a kamsa bar kamsa. This isn't that two people were fighting. We're talking about, what kind of machloket are we talking about? Political machloket. Conflict, civil war kind of thing. Shegavar b'malchei beit choshmonai. Anyone who knows history knows that Hyrcanus ve'Aristobulus, kings of Beit Chashmonai, later kings of the Chashmonai dynasty, they each one thought they should rule. עד שהיה מביא אחד את מלכות רומי. What did they do? Who did they bring in to fight? They brought in Rome. One of the sides said, oh, I'll show you, my brother. I'm going to bring in the big, strong Rome to show you that he's with me and I'll beat you. That is not the way things work well in Israel. וקיבל מידו המלוכה ונעשה לו עבד. And Rome received מלוכה and he became a slave to the Romans. ומאז נפשי שמתני להיות מרכבות להרכיב עליי נדיבות שאר העמים, and then I am the chariot for the other nations. That's what happens. That's how he reads the end of this pasuk. I became I'm not in control anymore. I am the horses. He's in control. He's holding on to me. This is what happened at the end. What? Taking us for a ride.
Is there
Correct.
kind of parallel story of Yosef? The brother selling the brother into slavery?
It seems to have a theme. It's a good point. A theme throughout history. We know that Achaz does the same thing. He calls Ashur, and Ashur comes and destroys the Mamlechet Israel, and then almost destroys the kingdom of Judea. The Ramban, when he talks about Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim, then it talks about these things. He says how the brothers bring it upon themselves, all kinds of dangerous things that we did, and we're paying for it till this day.
It's a surefire way to get on God's nerves.
Well, get on God's nerves and cause a lot of trouble within Am Yisrael. Can. Anyway, so this is how the chapter ends according to Rashi. So really, this chapter is the chapter of Beit Sheni. That's really have to see it. And Rashi says all kinds of interesting things about Beit Sheni. But at the end of the day, he leads it into this. But I want to point out, for our purposes, for those living in Medinat Yisrael in Tafshin Pei Dalet 2024, the Sinat Chinam here that he's referencing isn't Sinat Chinam between people individually. That's not good either. But that's not what he's talking. He's talking about political opposition that pulled apart so much that they were willing to bring in foreign powers to strengthen them. Yes, right, Zachariah, right? I agree with you. Oy, oy, when you read this.
Never think an empire is your friend.
And this is an issue. Baruch Hashem, it's not really in the focus of things, but there are certain leaning groups in Israel who are running off to other nations, tattling on them, asking them to intervene here. Mamash kacha, asking them to intervene. To come. It has not, traditionally this has not worked. Even when that side manages for 5, 10, 15, 20 years to have the upper hand because they have the power of the empire, the other empire behind them, it's short-lived. Until that power says, okay, now I'm taking over. Goodbye. You've served your purpose of bringing me in and letting me, giving a foothold within the country. Now I'm going to get rid of you. It needs to be learned that our internal fighting, like he said about the Talmidei Chachamim, when the internal fighting is out of love, then it's okay, then it's all one. But when it's really hatred, then we fall apart. And that's why we have to remember that we love Am Yisrael. We love Am Yisrael. We have to say it again and again and again. And even if they're doing really, really stupid things and things that we think are destructive, it's still your brother being destructive. You just relate to him differently. You can't, you're limited in your options of what you could do to him, let's put it that way. And you're also in your heart, hopefully you'll always remain loving your brother. Ezrat Hashem. Tov. That was Rashi. You could go if this is it, then it's over, but we're going to go to the Malbim. Okay, we are going to do the Malbim, 20 minutes of Malbim. So the Malbim, last time I was better. I was a better teacher, and I bolded all the important parts of the Malbim for you guys. This time I broke in the middle. I read it all, and then I was like, it was late at night. And I was like, and the clock to do that again. So I'm sorry. I should have, because it would have helped us go through the Malbim together. But let's read at least the beginning of the Malbim, okay? So erase everything you learned. We just learned about the chapter. Erase everything we just learned about the chapter. The Malbim is a completely different story. As I said before, this is the story of death, okay? This is the soul leaving the body. This whole parak is about that. The shift and what happens at that point, and how, in a sense, we'll say the body suddenly realizes, oh, this is what you were talking about all around. The kochot of the body say to the soul, oh, now we get it. Now when Hashem comes to take his beloved soul back, I would say, then the body goes, oh, whoops. Maybe we should have been a little more, we should have gone with you more until now. We shouldn't have been so restraining you this whole time. Let's take a look, okay? Let's read the beginning, the intro. Shir HaChamishi. Okay, this is the fifth song and the final song. You said there? This is the final song. Nimshach ad achot lanu ktana, until the middle of Perek Chet, which is the last chapter, okay? And then there's like a little addition. But now, so this is the longest song also. Starts from Perek Vav, Zayin, and half of Chet. Misaper, ki ba'acharit hayamim, at the end of times, et higia leShlomo moed kol chai, till the time comes to Shlomo as all living things, le'asef el amav, to be gathered to his nation, which is a nice way of saying die. Az bahadod ha'elyon el araya nefesh Shlomo, then comes the supernal beloved comes to the raya nefesh Shlomo, to the soul of Shlomo, le'asfa elav el tzrur ha'chaim le'en kol. He comes to gather his soul in front of everyone. ויספר על הוויכוח שהתווכחו אז כוחות הגבייה והגוף עצמו עם הנפש בל תיפרד מהם. The body starts arguing with the soul not to leave them. Don't leave us. That's what they start arguing. The body says to the soul. אבל היא מתלבשת אז בעוז השם. There she is clothed in the glory of Hashem, in the glamour of Hashem. Lashuv Elohim asher netana, to return to God who has given her. Ki azah kamavet ahava, the death is strong like love. Love is strong like death. Ubo yisaper inyan nefesh be'et hagviya v'acharav. And in this chapter, this is what we're about to see, they're going to tell us about how the soul dies and what happens afterwards too. Ad shetashuv el mikora be'beit aviyah, until it goes back to Shamayim. It goes back to meeting with it. So first of all, whoa, this is interesting stuff. We're about to be talked about what happens when you die. What happens when you die, and also when after you die. What happens in the process of the soul returning to Hashem. Says, well, before we go in, the Malbim is relating here. He says that be you a prophet or not, there is a moment in our lives when we are all prophets, in a sense. And that's the moment of death. The moment of death, there is a recollection of your soul back into Hashem. Hashem takes your soul. And there is a Shir, Yashir, a direct connection that happens there. That's why death, the moment of death, is viewed in Judaism as a very special moment. Okay? As Chazal say, the Shekhinah hovers over a deathbed. There's something that happens there. The event of death is a almost holy moment, even though halachically it's a horrible moment, right? Death is the ultimate enemy of kedusha, right? Tuma is death. That's what it is. Death and tuma go together all the time. But there's still something that happens there that is remarkable. And says the Malbim, this is what he goes. Okay. Let's dive in, right? Ana halach dodech, right? This is the question that it starts off, right? I'm going back to Pasuk Aleph. Where did your beloved go, my beautiful, ve'afa minashim, the most beautiful of women? Where did your beloved go? And we will search for him with you. So who says this? Rashi said, who said that? That was the Goyim saying it, right? Where did they go? They're laughing at us. So who's going to say it here? The Malbim. We've been learning the Malbim for months. What is he going to say? It's the body and its wants and powers and its, right? Misaper ki et higia l'Shlomo. I'm reading the beginning here. Et higia Shlomo tor hagviya. When it was Shlomo's time to die, ואז הכירו גם בנות הגבייה את מעלת הדוד העליון. Then all the powers, all the capacities of man in the flesh and his limitations and his abilities, suddenly they have a prophetic revelation. And they go, oh my gosh, now we understand. Okay? ויקר תשוקת הנפש האלוהית אל הדיבוק בו, והם מסכימים כולם לבקש את השם. It's a tragic moment when up until now his whole life Shlomo's been trying to get away from his bodily urges and his lusts and his thought patterns and his human dimensions that doesn't allow him to connect to Hashem. And now at the threshold of death, they suddenly say, "Oh, whoa! We also want to cling to God. We also want to be part of Hashem." ואז כי הגיע הדודים שתאסף נפש שלמה על עמיו אל אלוהיה, מתאספים כל בנות העיר. רצונו לומר כל כוחות הגבייה, all the powers, all the characteristics of the body. אל הראיה בת שמיים, מבקשים לאסף עמה אל מקומה ואל דודה. They want to go with the soul to where it's from. It's a remarkable dialectical situation, right? In other words, Hashem comes not to take the body. Hashem comes to take the soul. The body says now, no, we want to go too. Why did you? No, we want to come with you. It's an interesting paring down. Who are you? Like, who's talking here? What is the you that wants here? He's really like dividing up the body and soul. I'm being too blunt with my body and soul. It's not the body. It's not like the flesh. We're talking about the capacities of man. Okay, the limited capacities of man, including your imagination, your wants, your thoughts. All these things are still not the soul, where the Shlomo throughout was trying to free the soul in its connection to God. Now, all those capacities realize that they've been stunted all this time. And there's something so much greater that they could have experienced. And they say to the soul, take us with you. Okay? ושואלים אותה, אנה הלך דודך? It says, sometimes תשיג הנפש הדודה בנבואה ורוח הקודש. And sometimes the soul meets him through human capacity and human thought. It doesn't matter, says the Malbim. In both ways, the bodily functions were saying we want to join this, whether it be through straight out prophecy or through some kind of revelation of God through our capacities. This is what we want. Now we see clearly that we want to do. There's something about death where suddenly man sees clearly. It may be the tragedy of man a little bit, that as you get older, right? The joke is, right? Youth is wasted on the young. Right? Youth is wasted on the young. Oh, now I'm so much wiser, but I don't have the strength to do what I could do. It's so fun. You give an old person youth, now he could do something important. So the moment of death would be said, life has been wasted on the living in that way. Wow, now I understand how great everything is. Right? That's the one. So he says, I'm sorry. It's not the way it's going to work. So my dod, where does he come down? Dodi arad legano velo lekol agan. He sort of plays like Rashi. There's gano and there's the ganim. Remember? Dodi arad legano, lirot baganim. Then he goes again. So he says, no, lo kol agan. Hashem didn't come everywhere. He only comes to arugot bosem, the ones that smell good, the special area. Who's there? Shehi nefesh Elohit aruchanit, the spiritual, supernal soul. That's where Hashem comes down. Okay, but the rest of the things, lirot baganim, he says 3 lines from the bottom, from the bottom of this one, in the middle of the line, lirot baganim, ritzono lomar, et aganim shem nit'ei aguf, v'tzvacham yir'eh. Look what he's going to do. This is an interesting understanding. We'll understand. Perush, al yedei mavet. According to death, what happens to the body? Yizdachechu me'at me'at. They will be slowly purified. Lashuv el yesodot, to return to their essential components. Umisham el gilgulim acherim. What is he hinting here? Anyone hear a Gilgulim Acherim? You ever hear about Gilgul, reincarnation? So he says the body goes back into its element, and from there it will roll into something new. Adi baneh mehem bayit chadash, until there will be a new house built from them, from the body parts. אבל את השושנים, שהם הנפשות הקדושות, ילקט לעצמו. Hashem takes the shoshanim, the roses, which are the thing of the soul, that Hashem takes. The body stays in the realm here of the world. Now, the Malbim says this very, very shortly and compactly. He does not open it up, doesn't say what it is, but he's clearly hinting here to some kind of movement that happens to our body. Now, I'm going to say there are two. There's the more radical reading, which reads this as somehow the powers of who we were stay around in the world and reappear somewhere. I'm not as comfortable with that one for many reasons. Even though Vadai, the Arizal talks about Gilgulim. There's the Ramchal's Shita. The Ramchal says that, and I think this may be more correct than what he's saying. Ramchal says that when you die, your body needs to be purified. It's the only way to purify the body. And it goes back to its basic components, and then your body will be recreated for you later when Tcheta Meitim. So it's not a spread of your spiritual essence into the other people and other parts of the world, but you yourself will be reborn or resurrected with this body who is now clean and can now receive the prophecy as it should be. Yes?
Is the Rabbi talking about the temple here?
No.
The typical body of a human.
Oh yeah, he's talking about this. He's talking about us. Goof with the goof's powers. Remember, the flesh is not. He's never interested in the flesh. He's talking about the human capacities that are limited by who we are and how we are. Okay.
So there's a lot of sources that say that the dead feel pain in their bodies.
Okay. So that's part of this idea that there's still some kind of connection between the body and the soul, and your body is your body. It stays your body. It's okay. Don't worry.
Also, like the worms are eating at the enemies of Israel, like in Yerushalayim, right?
Okay, but why is that? What is that? That's where they feel it, kid, and it's part of like the thing.
Part of the punishment.
Okay.
So is it like kind of like a pit stop on the auto track, or like when you take your computer in to get service, you drop it off for a bit, it gets refurbished? It's kind of weird to think about.
I guess it's an interesting mashal to use. It's like you're dropped in a mikveh, sort of. Your body gets dropped in a mikveh, so it'll be ready for the soul. That's sort of what it would be. It would be more for the soul in the future. Okay. Okay, let's go on. Says Pasuk Gimel, right? Ani ledodi v'dodi li haro'eh b'shoshanim. I am for my beloved. Ata mitchaberet im doda ha'elyon. Now it touches it's supernal beloved, the God's presence. Shezeh mitat neshika. What's mitat neshika? Who dies in mitat neshika? Aaron dies in Nishikat Nishi. He's the first one. Aaron HaKohen. Moshe calls him up to the mountain, and he dies. Right? Chazal have a very long and detailed description of what happens. It says, Aaron, lie down. He lies down. Pick your legs up. Pick your legs up. Put your hands across your things. Die. That's pretty much what he says. And he dies. And it says there that Moshe Rabbeinu was so impressed by this death that it says Nitava Moshe mitat neshika. Moshe, that's what it's called, the mitat neshika. That your death is like a kiss. It's like a kiss. Very Okay, that's the ultimate death. The death where Hashem connects to you and your soul just goes out. That's the idea. In other words, Hashem calls your soul and pulls you out. It's not pain. It's not suffering. It's draws you right out. That's mitat neshika. Okay. Okay. I think we're gonna stop here. Okay. I don't think we're gonna come back to this Malbim, even though there's a lot to talk about. What? Just because I want to move ahead, because I want to move ahead next time to go into chapter 7. Again, everything here is talking about this moment of the shift, when the body realizes what's going on, and the soul is being removed, and most of what he's going to talk about is how much the body is mizuaza, I don't know, my English isn't working today. Mizuaza is despair, sort of, is so overwhelmed by this event, and is so sorry that it couldn't join this event. Sorry on the past and sorry in the future that it's not joining as it's happening. That's pretty much what he doesn't. We'll see. He develops. It doesn't end now. We have another 1.5 chapters where the Malbim is going to continue to develop it. Bezrat Hashem. We will see as we go.